Warning! You're watching Dr. Todd Lee TV, where theoretically you could learn a bunch of cool shit. What I would do differently if I was 18 and I wanted to be the best bodybuilder alive. This is kind of a confusing thing because in theory, you've completed puberty by this point, by 18, but your growth plates haven't fully fused. So this isn't the right time per se to start anabolics. But what I would want to do is reduce my estrogen dramatically so that my growth plates don't fuse too early and I could be taller. And I would want my sons to use anti-estrogens of some sort as early as possible, and I'd want to monitor their estrogen level and keep it low so that their growth plates don't fuse prematurely and they get as tall as they can get. Once the growth plates have fused, what I would do next is I would freeze my sperm so that I can get women pregnant later in life. Then whether I'm 20, 16, 21, whenever those growth plates fuse, ideally, the more, the lower you keep your estrogen, the less likely you are to have your growth plates fuse. That's when you would start. And if your testosterone in thousands, you don't have to do anything. If your GH level's high and your IGF-1's 600, 700, you don't have to do anything. You could just start eating appropriately and training appropriately. Probably you've been eating and training appropriately since you were 12, because that's what I did at the time. A starting program, 3 sets of 10, total body 3 times a week. Eventually, you might convert to upper, lower, off, then eventually upper, lower, off. The training I'm doing right now is clearly the best training I've ever done. There's no question. I shouldn't be growing at 46 years old. Then calories, I would do the diet the same way I do diet, double my body weight, and that would be protein maximum, 150% of my body weight, be protein average, and I would have the minimum amount of fat to digest my food and to make it palatable, and then I'd rely on carbohydrates for my other calories, and I would run in a slight calorie surplus, maybe 100 or so above calorie normality. I'd make sure I'm sleeping enough. I, of course, wouldn't do nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, or any other drugs. I probably wouldn't waste my time with relationships, but if girls were literally throwing themselves at me, I would give them the time of day. But unless they were like coming onto me or flirting with me, I would just ignore them, because they're not going to make your life better. They're just going to make your life harder. But assuming you have a sex drive and they're making it really easy, then I could see entertaining it. But I would definitely not pursue it. It's just not worth your time. If I want to be the best bodybuilder alive, I would be focused on building my social media presence, and I would go through whatever personal trainer certification is necessary so that I can actually make money at the gym, because I would want to be at the gym. If you're a bodybuilder, being a personal trainer is a very reasonable job. You get there at a certain time of day, you do your fasted cardio, you have your first meal, you train housewives from 8 in the morning till about 11 in the morning, you have your second meal, then you train between like 1 and 3. Then you might train a kid after he gets out of school because his parents are paying you from 3 to 4. And then you have business people if they get out of work. You have a meal at 5. Then you train people when they get out of work from 6 until 9. And then you have another meal. Then you go home and you go to sleep. That's simple. That would be your work day. Would I waste my time with college? Not anymore. Not when there's J3 University and my YouTube channel. Then there's really nothing you can get from a college you can't get from YouTube if you go with smart people. I would basically keep doing that, building up the social media presence, and that would build up probably an online demand for online clients. I would run an online coaching business to supplement the in-person training. At this point, I would probably compete in teenage division shows. Remember, at this point, I'm still natural. I don't need it yet. If and when I ever got to the point where I was not making progress, then that's when I'd want to start entertaining the possibility of using anabolic steroids. Now, I would start with testosterone, and I would titrate up my testosterone as I detailed in the Your First Cycle video, number 1 video in the most important shit playlist. I would titrate up to maybe an estrogen level. Remember, my growth plates are fused at this point. I would titrate up the estrogen to the point where I had nipple tenderness at all, and then I would roll back to a level that I wasn't tender. So let's say I was running 40 tests a day and my nipples started getting tender. I would roll back to 30 tests a day. I would probably take 20 milligrams of tamoxifen twice a day for 3 to 5 days until the nipple soreness goes away. And then I'd be like, okay, I've hit my upper limit, 30 milligrams of testosterone a day. Now I would basically reevaluate my IGF-1. If my IGF-1 was higher than it was naturally, great. If it was the same, if I'm at 600, no matter what I do with my estrogen, I don't need estrogen. I don't need GH. That's just because I'm so young, my body makes enough GH. I don't need it yet. More won't help. So then I would probably turn to something that was a very effective anabolic. I would probably start with DHB because it's the most effective for the least amount of milligrams with the least amount of side effects, liver notwithstanding. So I would probably run maybe 10 milligrams of DHB for a month, get my GGT tested. If the GGT was the same as it was before, I would go up to 20 milligrams of DHB. After a month, I would get it tested. If my liver is good, I would go up to 30. If it isn't, if it's starting to go up, let's say it went from 17 to 30, that's fine. I'm still in a normal range. That's the limit on my DHB. Once my DHB takes me to 41, it's too much. If I'm at 39, I'm good. That's where I'm going to stop with the DHB, is once you get to 39. So that's stage 1. Stage 2, I would probably start with 10 milligrams of treniphate. It's got to be an athate a day. This would be 6 milligrams of tren. This would be an effective dose as an anti-cortisol, and it would be effective for upregulating IGF-1 conversion, and it would also be useful for the other pathways, the non-genomic muscle building pathways that tren does, without it having any of the neurological side effects of 10 milligrams of tren. I know these are theoretical, but remember, we're talking about a young person that's never done gear before, already using 30 milligrams of test, 10 to 20 milligrams of DHB, maybe more if you can handle it, and 10 milligrams of treniphate a day. I'm using 3 different drugs. Yes, they're very low doses, but if you told someone, Todd Lee gave people advice that when they're 18, they should use test, tren, and DHB as their first cycle. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I would run my testosterone. First of all, it's over 18. It's whenever your growth plates fuse, and even though you used anti-estrogens to prevent your growth plates from fusing, that's when you would resort to using anything. If you're not growing, if you already maxed out your genetic potential, then I would run testosterone up until the point where estrogen is a problem. Then I would roll back to when estrogen is not a problem, clear up any gyno I created with tamoxifen. Then I would turn to DHB, run that up to the point where the liver, so really I'm on my second cycle already. I just never stopped the first one. Then I would run my DHB up to the point in which my liver started taking damage and it was out of the green and into the yellow. Then I'd roll back to when the liver was in the green. Then I would turn to tren and use the minimum effective dose, which is 5 milligrams of tren base a day. So if it's 60% pure treniphate, then 10 milligrams of treniphate is 6 milligrams of tren, the molecule, which is a great number. I would run that. Then I should be growing just fine. If I wasn't growing and it wasn't affecting my sleep and it wasn't affecting my appetite, I would introduce a little more tren. Maybe go up to 15 milligrams of treniphate a day. I would not run more than that long term in someone who's still having a forming brain. Your brain forms until you're 28. All right. So that being said, what's the next step? The next step I would introduce is if I've maxed out my test, I've maxed out my DHB, I've run near the maximum safe dose of tren, then I would start using Masteron if it was available. And I would run as much Masteron as it took because it doesn't fucking matter. Nothing's going to happen. Masteron is safe as shit. You could run Masteron 10 milligrams a day. You probably could run a Masteron 100 milligrams a day and nothing's going to happen. Your cholesterol, your HDL will go down. Your ApoB might go up a little bit. This example is of a 20 or 22-year-old kid. There's no reason you have to worry about cholesterol in someone that young. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. There's no inflammation. There's no high blood pressure. So even if the cholesterol was bad, there's not going to be atherosclerosis. Not in your 20s. It just doesn't happen. People are like, well, I know. Shut the fuck up. It's not going to happen. Not for Masteron, it's not. Now, pre-workout. Okay, we're already running 30 tests a day, 10 to 20 DHB, 10 to 15 treniphate, 10 to 100 Masteron a day. If you're still not growing, then I could see taking Anavar pre-workout, 25 milligrams. Now, that's a big jump. On the lower limit, we're dealing with 30 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, that's 60 a day. That's 400 a week, right? And we're only like 2-3 months into the cycle. It's not a cycle, it's a lifestyle. You're a bodybuilder. There is no cycling. You just keep adding shit until there's a problem. Then you pull out the shit that caused the problem. And if you're tracking yourself as you go, you know exactly when the problem happens. You know exactly what you did to cause the problem. So you take it away. you ain't got a problem. So then if you, on the low end, we're using 60 a day. On the high end, you're running 75 plus 90, 165 a day. So that's already up to a gram in one case, right? So we're running between 400 to 1,000 milligrams a week at this point. Then the next drug, you add in Anavar, 25 milligrams pre-training. That would be 5-6 days a week. That's 150 a week, right? So we're already up to 550 to 1,150 a week. 30 milligrams of test, 10 milligrams to 20 milligrams of DHB, 10 to 15 milligrams of trinithaate, anywhere from 10 to 100 Masteron, then probably adding in 25 Anavar pre-training. This is still super safe levels of super safe drugs because you're using so little of them. And Masteron, you're like, that's not a little amount of Masteron. You're right. Masteron's that fucking safe. It's amazing. Now, your cholesterol is probably going to be pretty bad at this point. It's going to be high single digits, maybe low double digits. But if your ApoB is fine, it doesn't matter. Then what would you do next? You've already got test. You've got the DHB, which is your EQ class. You've got Tren, which is your Nandrolone class. You've got Masteron, it's a 5-alpha reduced class. Smack yourself if you call it DHT class. And then you've got Anavar, which is an oral. It's technically in the same, it's almost identical to Masteron. It just works differently because it's an oral. These are great drugs. We're going to get increased collagen synthesis of 2+ from the test. We're going to increase collagen synthesis from 1+ from the Anavar. We're going to have DHB is just purely anabolic, and it's fucking 3 times stronger than test. Tren is extremely anabolic. It's like 5 times stronger than test, and it increases IGF-1 conversion, and it also has non-genomic muscle building capabilities. The problem with this is it hurts collagen synthesis, but these two increase collagen synthesis. This one right here, this little piggy, the Masteron, is like DHB. It's just not as strong, but it doesn't fuck with your liver. It's just a safer version of DHB. And then the Anavar has all these other special properties, and it's super fucking safe. So little things that are supposedly the Anavar and the Tren are anti-cortisol. You're going to be taking your foot off the brakes as you hit the gas with those two. The test is going to have you have water retention through aldosterone, and the estrogen upregulation converts the GH into IGF-1, which is compounded with the Tren. This works great. These 5 things, almost you got your infinity gauntlet. GH would be the soul stone, which you don't need yet because you're young. Now, let's say you're one of those people who's like, well, there's no drawback to using more GH. All right, so if you add in 2 units of GH at bedtime, it's going to shut off what your body's naturally making. So when you're that young, you might have to use 4 or 6 units to get the same effect of what your body naturally makes. It's just not going to be financially worth it at that point. So I really wouldn't even dick around with it. But if for whatever reason you started using 6 units, IGF-1 goes up from 500 to 600, that isn't necessarily a good thing either. It could cause your bones or your hands or your feet to grow faster. This isn't necessarily a good thing to have super high IGF-1 levels. The sweet spot's probably somewhere between 300 and 500. Where exactly that is, I don't know. Remember, you're only 22. You do have 30 years worth of competing ahead of you if you do it right, at least. So you don't need to rush into anything. If you rush and you grow your waist, you're done. If you rush and you lose your hair, you're fucking done. You can get gyno surgery cut out, but if you fuck up your face, you fuck up your hair, you fuck up your waist, your career as a bodybuilder is fucking over. So don't rush it. Do a classic physique for as long as you can. And then if you're ever so ugly you can't do classic physique, then you're stuck doing open bodybuilding. But don't switch unless you're too big for classic or you're too ugly for classic. So try to stay as young and healthy as possible. So you're like, well, when does the cycle end? It doesn't need to end because you didn't abuse drugs. The whole cycle thing is about a drug abuse. It's a cycle of drug abuse. That's what a cycle is. You abuse the drugs, fuck up your organs, have to quit, let your organs cool off till their blood work's okay. Then you start the abuse over again. Some of the damage you're doing is permanent to your kidneys and to your cholesterol, your arteries with atherosclerosis. Don't do that. Don't fuck up your ApoB. Don't fuck up your GGT. Don't fuck up your cystatin C. As long as your cystatin C is like 0.8 or 0.9, as long as your ApoB is under 90, as long as your GGT is under 40, whatever you're doing is pretty much fucking fine. You're going to be okay. I started gear in 2008. I've never came off. My blood works better now than when it was 2008. I'm fucking healthy as shit. My blood pressure was like 116/64. I'm 46 years old. I'm healthier than any other 46-year-old I've ever met. I've been using steroids at high doses for like 17 years because I'm better at it. That's it. I'm better at this than the other people. That's why I am aging at a reasonable rate and my organs are super healthy. Do I look as good as I did when I was 37? No, that was 9 fucking years ago. I'm going to get older because the skin's going to keep growing on my face because of the GH. That doesn't mean my organs are getting older. I mean, I don't have wrinkles on my body. I don't have stretch marks. I just have some nasolabial folds because the skin folded over the past couple of years when I tried to use 26 units GH. In 1 year of using Chase Iron's GH protocol, I aged my face like a year and a half. But between 43 and 45, I aged like 5 years because I went from 8 units a day, which I've been doing for 10 years, worked slowly up to 26 units. I didn't grow any more muscle. I was still the same weight on stage in 2024 as I was in 2021. Using more GH did not make me do anything but made my face get older because I'm not more wrinkled, but I have folds of skin because the skin kept growing. So what I'm trying to say is the best bodybuilder is the patient bodybuilder who focuses on training and growing things like the delt, the arms, the upper chest, the lats, the quad sweep, the hamstring, and the adductors. Don't train your glutes. You can bring up your calves if you want. You can train your biceps and your triceps. But for the most part, what gives you a good physique is middle delts, lats, quad sweep from the front, rear delts, hamstrings from the side. And from the back, you can't hide shit. Everything shows from the back except for your chest. And if you actually pose correctly, you can show your chest from the back. There's no hiding shit from the back. That's why the rear double bi in classic or in open bodybuilding is the fucking most important pose. And then, of course, if your waist is shit, it's going to ruin every pose. Keeping your waist small is priority 1. Getting your delts, your lats, and your quad sweep as big as you can is priority 2, 3, and 4. And then everything else is just icing on the cake. You don't really need anything else for classic. People are going to tell me I'm wrong. Fuck you. No, I haven't competed in classic, but I've been paying attention. I've been paying attention since it started. I wanted to do classic before there was a physique. They just didn't have it. By the time it was time for me to do classic, I weighed too much. But now they increased the weight limit on classic, so now I fit within the weight limit. So finally, there's a division that's absolutely perfect for my build. Maybe I might be too old. Well, guess what? There's an over 45. So am I as pretty as I was when I was 37? No. But the point is, had I done everything the way I'm telling you, I would be so much more successful as a bodybuilder than what I did. I didn't start bodybuilding till I was 29. I didn't start using gear until I was 29. And I lost like 10 years. I lost 10 years by going to medical school. Or did I? Did becoming a doctor allow me to be so much more efficient with that 17 years that I managed to get better between 44 and 46 rather than being dead like a lot of guys who are younger than me? People are going to say, I can't believe you're telling young kids to use tren. The devil's in the dose, dipshit. 10 milligrams of tren is a fuckload of tren, and it does the job. You don't need to use more. Now, to be fair, you probably want to know exactly what I'm doing, because otherwise I'm a fucking hypocrite, right? So right now, I'm on 70 testosterone. I was able to handle 80 testosterone with no AI, but I'm getting so close to show. A couple weeks ago, EQ was introduced, so it would raise the anabolic load, replace the DHB that was taken out because of the liver damage of the DHB, and bring the estrogen down. It brought the estrogen down from like an 80 to a 16 by adding in 30 milligrams of EQ a day. On an 80 test, it was a 55 estradiol. By adding in 30 EQ a day, I brought that 55 down to a 16. It was 14.8. I'm sorry. It was 14.8. So 14.8. So it cut it down by like 70% by just adding 30 EQ a day. All right. So we've established. Now I also reduced the test a little bit because I had a 71 DHT and the 16 brought it down from an 80 test a day to a 70 test a day. This should bring the DHT closer to 65 and it should bring the estradiol down to like 12. All right. Then the next line. Remember, I removed out the DHB to put in the EQ because my liver was taking a beating. It's the only thing on this prep that's taking a beating was my liver. My GGT was going up after that DHB experiment. Going from 10 to 30 a day was too much of a jump. I know now that I should have stayed at 10 and I would have been cruising at a 37 GGT. I had a 24 GGT on no DHB. I had a 37 GGT after a month of 10 DHB, and then it went up to an 85 when I went up to a 30 after a month. Now, keep in mind, I did loading doses, so the whole month was spent. I didn't titrate up. I did 100 milligrams for 3 days to go from 100 up to a 30 steady state, then drop down to 30 because I basically landed the plane. So the correct dose for me is 10 milligrams of DHB. When you mix it with tren, mixing tren and DHB is supposed to amplify the liver toxic effects of the DHB. Tren is right now at 30 milligrams a day. I'm tolerating it just fine. I sleep great. I'm nicer than now than when I was on 20 milligrams of tren. So the 30 milligrams of tren is okay. Now, I know what you're going to say, but what about the brain damage? I've used as much as 200 milligrams of tren a day. I'm still smart enough to find everyone else fucking retarded and tedious to talk to. So if I lost IQ points, my quality of life would get better and I'd be nicer. I'd probably make more money. That my intelligence is actually too much. So if I did brain damage by taking more tren, it's not the end of the world. I have a lot of brain to damage. The next drug, it's Anavar. I'm at 25 milligrams of Anavar a day, pre-training. And before fasted cardio, I just introduced 25 milligrams of Winstrol a day. The reason being is Winstrol is supposed to really help harden you up at the end of prep. So I'm exactly 6 weeks out is when Winstrol was added in. I've used Winstrol as like 12 weeks out before, handled it just fine. And then sometimes I've tried using Winstrol and it made me sick. I'm handling Winstrol just fine right now. And I'm seeing pretty good changes cosmetically. Is it really burning more fat? Is it really building more muscle? Is it really doing anything for me? Maybe not, but it sure looks like it is. My area around my nipples is better. The area on my obliques is better. The area of my glutes is better within just a few days of adding in the 25 Winstrol pre-fasted cardio. Now, remember, I'm doing a lot more stuff than just those anabolics. I'm doing my fat loss stack, and I have a coach, and my coach is Dominic Cusa. I've tried all these things before. None of this is new except for the slew is new, but everything I've used before. But having someone who's a perfectionist and is brilliant and knows the science and has brought people in stage ready with great conditioning is a good idea. Even if you think you know what you're doing, 2 heads is better than 1, assuming the other head is your equal or superior. So Dom's as smart as me. We work together, and if I don't know something, he does. And sometimes on blood work, I'm like, hey, what do you think we should do for this? Should we do A or B? And he'll be like, oh, this time I think we should do C, and he'll have a good explanation. It's not like a normal coach where someone's like, just trust the process. That means they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So even me, after competing for 17 years, and as arrogant as I might sound to you, I still hire someone to help me, because when I've tried to do it in the past, it doesn't come out right, because I'm able to get myself right up to the point of the end of the prep, but getting the last little bit of fat off and making me look good on stage is not something I've ever mastered for myself. I've helped it with other people, but I don't do it well with me. And a lot of people will say, you can't be objective because you can't even see yourself. I can't see myself. I can see pictures of me. I can see video of me, but I can't lay eyes on me. I'm the only one in the world that can't look at me. So how could I be the only person in the world who'd be optimal for preparing me for a bodybuilding show where the judges are looking at me with their bare eyes? In order to really know what someone looks like, they have to look at you. That's aside from the bias, which is scientifically proven fact. When someone looks at themselves, they're biased. So if I wanted to be the very best bodybuilder possible, I would do everything I just told you to do, which is pretty much what I'm doing right now. I just wish I started it 30 years ago. Not 30 years ago, 25 years ago. I wish I did this 25 years ago. I wish I had a Todd Lee to look up to and learn from 25 years ago. We didn't have that shit. We didn't. We had no good information. We had magazines with bullshit in it. Lies. But I would say 25 years ago, the best thing out there would have been like Dave Palumbo. And not that Dave's wrong. A lot of his shit will still work. Dave's a great coach and knows a lot of shit. And that's where almost everyone learned their stuff, was either Milos or Dave. But Science has came a long way in 25 years, and we've learned some more stuff. So whereas that stuff will still work, the Milos protocols and the Dave protocols will still work. You know, doing a Milos off season and a Dave contest prep, that's going to work. But there's easier, healthier ways to do it, especially because we have so many tools no one used to have before. I mean, they didn't have to tread an athlete back in the day. There was no long-acting insulin back in the day. There sure as fuck wasn't any peptides other than growth hormone, and no one really knew how to dose it. Dave and Milos figured out how to dose everything. But now we've got tricks. You know, Milos came up with the normal insulin protocol. Dave made it better because of Lantus. Things like that. We had luminaries, but the internet was very slipshod in 2004. I started learning about stuff in 2008. And I remember how shitty everything was in 2008. No one knew anything in 2008. It was all bullshit. It was all witchcraft. All witchcraft. So what I would do different is everything I told you to do. And I know that I focused, it seems like a lot on steroids and not enough on nutrition and training, but let's face it, no one gives a fuck about the hard stuff. They want the easy stuff. If you want to know about the nutrition, check out the How to Grow episode 9 nutrition and the How to Grow series. Just go to the playlist section of this channel. How to Grow, there's a nutrition. It's also in the most important shit playlist. How to Grow Nutrition's like the 2nd or 3rd episode on that one. Blood Work for Dummies is like the 5th episode. Hypertrophy for Dummies is like the 6th episode. Hydration is number 2 episode. Not gonna lie, the most important shit playlist on this channel is like your college course for free on how to be the best bodybuilder possible. Yeah, I've got other videos. I've got 400 other videos, but the most important videos are the most important shit playlist. And every single person who watches any of my anything should start with that. This video hopefully is a good introduction to you. Hopefully I wasn't too much of a dick. May the force be with you.